Tonight, do prisoners make the best politicians?
The two worst things that have ever happened to black people are learning to read and getting the right to vote.
All those in favor say it's time to debate right here on Crossballs.
Comedians posing as experts.
Pot is good for everyone.
Little girls should know what FME pumps are.
Hunting is self-defense.
I drive drunk all the time.
Debating real people.
I'm not gay.
It's totally immoral.
Who don't know the show is fake.
That's a lie. You're an idiot.
Die.
Out of the crossfire, beyond hardball. This is Crossballs.
I'm Chris Tallman. Tonight's topic, voting in America. The manual recount of 2000 put the suffer in suffrage for all of us. But will 2004 be different, or will most our fundamental rights go horribly wrong again? Joining us now is the Secretary for Election Guardian, a California Political Action Committee, Susan Marie Weber. Also with us is the President of Electoral College, one of our nation's newest developers of voting reform technology, Jerry Davis. Thank you for being with us. Sure. Question of the day. Congress allotted $3.86 billion for voting reform, but are we moving fast enough to ensure that the problems of the 2000 presidential election never happen again? Susan.
Well, and when you have a system where the computer creates the ballot, counts the ballot, then gives the results, and then tells you that everything is fine and to trust the system, that's totally un-American and it is totally wrong.
Jerry, how do you respond?
I have developed software, it's called Electoral College software, that allows the voter to vote from home over the internet.
Really?
Yes, and I think it's time for us to get into the 20th century. It's what we're about, and I don't think there's anything un-American about technology.
Do you know what would happen if all votes were on the internet? We would have people in Taiwan voting in our elections. We would have people all over the world voting in our elections.
Is that possible? People could actually hack into the
Totally
system
possible.
from anywhere?
No, that's just conjecture, Susan. You're just saying things like, oh, well, people from space are going to vote on the internet just because.
Now, that would be interesting.
Do you know what a DVD is?
Do you know
No, I mean, a lot of people don't know what it stands for. Information that goes from the computer that you're put into goes into a central processor. Nothing's going to happen. There's no goblins that are going to come up and eat your votes up.
Stop it.
People don't understand that. Like, there's some kind of monster in there that's
You don't think there's a monster in there?
And that's not true.
Do you think there's a monster inside of a computer?
No, but I will ask you this. If you go into McDonald's and you say, I'd like to order a Big Mac, the first thing they do is give you a piece of paper so that you can see, yes, this is what I ordered. Now we have absolutely no idea.
Well, that's
Nobody
what I'm talking
knows
about.
how
There's
anybody
ways that we can
voted. They don't
identify.
know
But,
what
you know,
precinct
we
voted.
also used to throw women in the water to see if they would float, if they were witches or not.
Stop. Let's move on. Bottom line, is it time for voting to get with the program? We have a local news story from Detroit about Electoral College's new software. Take a look.
Hanging chads, endless recounts, and the presidency hanging in the balance. A time voters won't soon forget. Now, 4 years later, Jerry Davis and his company, Electoral College, say it's time to throw away paper ballots once and for all. So this is my 21-digit government-issued...
Personal ID code, yes.
Uh-oh.
Okay, if you make a mistake, no problem. You just manual quit, re-enter. Make sense?
Okay, show me what you just did.
Okay.
What they've done is spend 3 years and $31 million developing this controversial computerized voting system. The question remains, will it make voting any easier?
So what's exciting is we've made the screen click sensitive for instant runoff elections. So, first choice, standard double click. Second choice, triple click. And then everyone else you want to drag into the no confidence bin. But be careful that you don't highlight more than one candidate when you right click.
But if I do it wrong, I can just manual quit re-answer.
No. That's your ID. If you get it wrong, no problem. You just adjust the preferences in your voting queue, drag down and select your itemized candidate roster, so it vote, no vote, and timestamp, then boom, just like that. Single click on the unmarked the most recent vote, return to main menu, update preferences, control F1, save as new. Make sense?
It just seems complicated.
It's no more complicated than your standard DVD Easter egg or video game cheat code.
But not everyone knows about Easter eggs or cheat codes.
Well, not everybody listens to an MP3 player or drives a car. You gotta start somewhere. It's the 21st century.
All right, now. Sure. All right. That system, it's not perfect, but is it better than what we've got? Susan?
I'm sorry, I wouldn't trust you.
Yeah, and Jerry, thank you. Yes, absolutely. What happens when people get to Electoral College's voting polls at home, let's say, they can't do it? What happens? They just don't get to vote because they can't figure it out?
I personally don't think that the mentally disabled should be voting, so...
Wait. So just to clarify, what you're saying is anybody who can't figure out your system is retarded. That's what you're saying.
Don't put words in my mouth.
It came out of your mouth first. Let's move on. Let me quote from Electoral College's brochure, Under Raising Voter Turnout. This is a quote. Millions vote daily on sports websites and reality TV shows. Voting isn't boring. Politics are, unless we jazz them up. Please explain that, Mr. Davis.
Okay. How about every time you vote, okay, you get a coupon for a casserole recipe or something like that, or tickets to some show like Kenny Rogers or Magnificent Melinda and her peacock tricks. What? How about this? What? How about...
Wait, hang on a second. Does that entice you to vote getting a coupon?
It is so wrong that it is defies...
Absolutely right.
You don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
These people don't even know... You don't even know what you're talking about because you don't understand the system that I'm talking about.
This is on your website. What about a voting lottery? Explain that.
One in every 100 votes counts for 1,000. That's like a voting lottery. So, yes. Now
that's not fair.
Chris, just get an idea.
Correct me if I'm wrong. In America, one person, one vote. Is that right?
Well, so far.
Yeah. Let me put this quote on screen.
I don't know if you understand.
Millions believe voting is a waste of time, and it is. But we can fill that time with whatever we want. The market is wide open. Does this mean advertising on the ballot?
It costs so much money. We have to make sure that electronic voting is secure. If we're going to pay for that, how about this? How about every time you vote for the president, you're also voting in the Pepsi Challenge? Just in this example.
No, sorry. All right, next up. The voting age is 18, but are teenagers informed about the issues, or do they put the dumb in democracy?
Look like a baby wearing a motorcycle helmet right now.
Stay tuned. Welcome back. Tonight's topic, voting in America. Do teenagers take their voting seriously, or do they just giggle when they hear Bush is ahead in the polls? Joining us now is the chairman for college Republicans at Loyola Marymount University, Kyle Redding. Also with us is the president of Concerned Citizens for Correct Voting, Matt Bradley. Let's look at tonight's big question. The voting age has been 18 since 1972. Is that too young, too old, or just right? Kyle, let's start with you.
I think it's just right. You become a legal U.S. adult citizen when you turn 18. That means you have the right to get married. You have the responsibility to register with the Selective Service. You can go overseas and die in a war. I figure if you can go die in Iraq, why can't you then vote for your commander-in-chief?
If you're an adult, everybody else, why not for voting?
Absolutely.
Sure, why not? Absolutely. Matt, you're shaking your head. What do you think?
Now, this is what I say to every 18-year-old who wants to vote. I say, it was only 2 years ago that we allowed you to drive your car without mommy in the seat next to you. It was only 1 year ago that we allowed you to see an R-rated movie because we thought you were ready to see Freddy Krueger without wetting your pants. Now, 1 year later, you expect me to put the fate of the nation in your hands? I don't think so.
I'm sorry, I have to disagree with that. As a country, we are a democracy. Why cannot we be given the right to choose the future of our own country, the future which is ours?
Because you don't take it seriously.
I'm sorry, I don't take it seriously?
Popularity. Would you stop saying I'm sorry? You can just apologize right now for the whole show. You don't have to say I'm sorry.
I'm sorry you're acting immature and ignorant, but the fact is you don't know what you're talking about.
You're the one who's immature. You treat it like a popularity vote. They vote for Kerry because they think it's Mariah Carey's dad. That's why they vote for it. They vote for Nader because he's driving a cool hybrid car. They vote for George Bush because he used to snort a lot of blow. They think that's cool.
All right, hang on. We got to move on.
The only thing you're qualified to vote for is the best belly button ring of the year, or the best rock song.
Let's move on. Many say kids are growing up faster in our present society. Should we lower the voting age to accommodate them? Matt, I think you're already talking about this.
Look, I was 18 once. I know what it's like. I remember when I was 18, I went to vote, but I got all drunk and I peed on the curtain. I know what you guys do. You're gonna go to a voting booth. You're gonna set up some turntables, turn into a big dance party. You don't take it seriously.
All right,
you know what?
Kyle, is that accurate? Of course not.
And I can figure out how to punch a little hole into a card. Maybe some people in Florida can't, but I can, and my peers can as well.
And the only hole you know how to punch a hole into is your Playboy magazine, so you can put your penis in there.
Stop that. I'm sorry about that.
Because you know he's a virgin.
That's inappropriate.
Any young Republican's a virgin, I'll tell you that right now.
Why is my virginity an issue?
Young Republican means virgin.
It is not an issue.
It is an issue because you're not mature. You've never been laid. You never driven. You don't know what it's like to be an adult.
Let's stop.
How old are you? How old are you?
I'm 22 years old.
I'm 36. Have you ever been 36?
Have you ever been
I've
36?
been 22.
All right.
And I'm sure
You've never been where I have, son. I've been where you've been. I've got many years on you that you have no idea about.
Let's move on.
It's going to blow your mind.
All right, here we go. Concerned Citizens for Correct Voting has been very critical of MTV's organization Rock the Vote. Now, please explain that, Mr. Bradley.
Rock the vote? The vote is not meant to be rocked. It's meant to be considered very seriously. If they're going to have a campaign, it should be called Consider the Vote or Pull the Lever.
It's ridiculous.
That should be your campaign.
It's ridiculous, isn't it, Kyle?
I think it is ridiculous. Right now, the problem is that not enough young people vote.
Concerned Citizens for Correct Voting has actually created a controversial 30-second PSA that will air in the fall. I'd like to play that now.
Hi, I'm Elisa Donovan from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Remember, you're only a teenager once. So I want you to rock your life.
So I opened the newspaper the other day and I think to myself, is this really for me? Why would I want to sit all day in some voting booth when I could be here? Or here. Or here. I know myself and I know I'm not ready to vote yet. And that's okay.
You only get one chance to be a teenager. Don't rock the boat. Rock your life.
No. Voter turnout amongst 18 to 24-year-olds is already low. Is an ad like this just giving voice to what a generation is already thinking, Kyle?
Young people, yeah, they like to have fun, like you said in your ad, but they also, those who do vote, take voting seriously.
Isn't that so?
Right. I mean, it seems like you brought me on here to go against this guy. But,
yeah, that's right.
But we also have age caps. We are concerned with the senile. It's obvious. It's just like you don't want them driving. If you have a someone who's terminal, who's going to die in the next 2 or 3 years, and they're voting for a president who's going to last 4 years, you really want them to be able to do that? They're like, I'm for the 6-month president. That's all they care about.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
They have Alzheimer's disease. Do you want somebody with Alzheimer's disease making a decision?
Old-timers or Alzheimer's?
Alzheimer's.
It's old-timers.
It's Alzheimer's. It's a name.
Well, I'm sorry.
What about the people who have fought in wars? You're taking away, they defended America's shores. What about their right to vote?
I agree with what you're saying. I didn't say that. All vets should be able to vote. Yes.
All veterans.
Yes. Believe me, if you fought the Nazis, the Viet Cong, the Taliban, Viet Nazis, Taliban, if you fought any of those people, you should be given the right to vote.
What did you just say?
I said the Nazis, Viet Cong,
you said
any of those
Viet
guys.
Nazis, Taliban.
Yeah.
What the hell is that? All right, coming up, felons who want to go from their cell block to a voting block.
If you switch bloods with Palestinians and skinheads with Jews, I think you've got peace in the Middle East.
More Crossballs when we return. Welcome back. Tonight's topic, voting in America. Felons in most states are not allowed to vote. Burning issue. If we've locked someone up, should we lock them out of democracy? Joining us now is the former chief of the 8th Street Nation. He's a current candidate for Congress and a current inmate at Illinois State Prison, Brandon Sears. Now, Mr. Sears, just to clarify, you are speaking to us from jail right now. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
All right. Now, Mr. Sears, why should felons in prison have the right to vote?
Well, first, Mr. Tomlin, I'd like to say thank you for referring to me as a candidate, despite the fact that the system won't really let me run. Now, I've collected over 1,000 signatures, and yet for some reason I'm not being recognized. It's because those individuals that signed up are also felons. It's a vicious cycle of catch-22.
So let me just get this straight. You've got enough signatures for your petition, but because they're all, I assume, with you there in jail, they're not allowed to vote, so therefore it doesn't count. Is that right?
That is correct. It's designed to keep blacks out of the voting booths.
All right, let's move on. Mr. Sears, I'm sure many people will be worried about felons actually voting. Now, to be clear, why are you in prison? What did you do that landed you where you are?
Quite honestly, it's because I stole a DVD.
Well, that's it? You stole a DVD, that's it?
Do you know what a DVD is?
Right. That's it, Mr. Sears? You sold a DVD in a prison?
Well, people were at home watching it at the time, and someone got shot, but that is not my point.
There are laws designed to level the election playing field should inmates be included under those laws and get equal time. Mr. Sears?
Well, how can I get equal time, Mr. Talman, if I'm not allowed to debate my opponent, and my opponent will not come to the prison during normal prison visiting hours to debate me? Congressman, why don't you come down to the prison this Tuesday and we can discuss the capital gains tax like two men, bitch.
Let's say you actually get into Congress and you're in charge. Let's stop talking about prison for a second. Let's hear about some issues. What about, like, the national debt? What are you going to do about that?
I believe one of the reasons that the national debt is spiraling out of control is because we are constantly funding these government programs like building more prisons or attempting to house more prisoners. I can promise you that if I got a shot, the first thing I would do is stop building prisons and release some of the prisoners.
Susan, does that make sense to you?
I only agree with the part where he says build fewer prisons and let a whole lot of people out, because there's a whole lot of people in prison for no reason at all.
That's what she wants to do.
Yeah.
She wants to let people out of prison.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you.
She wants to let people out of prison and run free and do crime. And that's what I'm saying is that if we had my system, prisoners would be voting from prison on the internet. They wouldn't be out on the street.
Mr. Sears, I'm sorry, Mr. Sears, we are short on time. I'm going to allow you to give us sort of one last word before we have to say goodbye to you.
My last word is this, Mr. Talman, and to the future voters I'm looking for. If I was passionate enough to shoot a man over a DVD, imagine how passionately I'll represent you.
All right, coming up. It's a two-party system, but nobody's having any fun. Can Democrats and Republicans learn to get along? Stay tuned.
On the next Crossballs.
Does every man have the right to be treated like a woman?
I want to be a woman on ladies' night when we drink free, sisters!
Welcome back. Tonight's topic, voting in America, democracy or democrisis. It's time for Foul Ball, where we look at something that's completely out of bounds. Joining us now is the mayor of Mint, California, Andrew Richards. Now, Mayor Richards, is it fair to say your town has come up with a unique solution to partisan politics?
We've stopped sorting ourselves into different political parties. Why do we spend millions of dollars in an entire year on mudslinging campaigns that just insult the voters' intelligence and distract an office holder for an entire year of his term? We don't play that game anymore. Everybody in Mint is a demo can.
Well, I mean, Susan Marie, does that sound right to you?
Oh, no, I would not agree with that. I'm sorry.
No, it doesn't.
I like all the parties because I like everybody bringing in new ideas.
Look, if you live in New York, for instance, don't bother voting because New York always goes to the Democrats. If you live in North Dakota, it always goes to the Republicans. Districts are gerrymandered now, so there's really only a few counties in the entire country that are actually up for grabs on Election Day, okay? So we have just called off the whole charade in Mint. We don't do it anymore, and the money that other towns spend on campaigns and everything, we've been able to put into public works, like statues and portraits and murals. We're having a golden age in Mint.
Well, wait. Just to clarify, you don't vote.
There's no reason to. My grandfather was the mayor here in Mint for 12 years. After him, my father was the mayor for 20 years. He was only elected once because every other time he was unopposed and nobody had a problem with it, you know, and he just kept going. When he died, we put him out into the bay on a burning ship. I'm his firstborn. I became mayor. And it's great. Chris, this country, everyone in America loves a legacy. It's in our nature. You know, that's why we keep electing Bushes and Kennedys and Earnhards and Coppolas. Let's stop fighting it and embrace it.
That basically makes him a communist dictator who has complete control over his city with no dissent or disagreement whatsoever.
I'm sorry, I think communism is not what you think. I think you're talking about monarchies.
All right, let's move on.
Neither.
He didn't know what he's talking about.
We have footage from a town meeting in Mint. I'd like you to explain this, Mayor.
My name is Mary Kimball. I live on the corner of Thompson and Maple, and we're finding that having a speed limit of 65 plus no stoplight on the corner is dangerous. Just last week, Mrs. Davis had to pull her daughter out of the road from one of those trucks. So I'm hoping something can be done.
What is your name?
Mary?
Well, Mary, I'm going to grant you your stoplight. And I'll tell you why. Because I like you. Now, you have a very pleasant manner about you, and I like your spunk. So you will get your stoplight, corner of Thompson and Maple. Very good.
I'm sorry, is the speed limit a separate discussion? How does that work?
You got your stoplight. That's enough.
Well, can we vote? I mean, I almost think the speed limit is more important than the stoplight. So
that's a shame because now you get neither. Next issue.
I'm sorry. I just thought I should mention the
next issue.
You just saw a decision get made, all right? Well, I didn't have to consult the head of the agriculture department, and we didn't have to hear a petition from the so forth and
Mayor,
so on.
You're talking about basically just sort of like what they've got over in England, the royal family just here in America.
Not at all. I don't think it's anything like that at all. The royal family, the Windsors in England, they're figureheads, and they actually don't make any decisions whatsoever. And they're a fairly weak and simple-minded bunch of people out there. They've allowed their blood to become impure, and that's nothing like us.
All right, that's all the time we have. We'll see you tomorrow night when more experts get caught between the crossballs. Good night.
After facing the conflict in Vietnam, the battles of Capitol Hill, and the hard road to becoming a presidential nominee, John Kerry is finally ready to face this man? John Kerry, special guest on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart tonight at 11 on Comedy Central.
On Tough Crowd, it's all about speaking your mind.
Look, duality.
And having the last word.
Teresa Hines, Kerry got up and spoke. It was like her ketchup. It took forever and hardly anything came out.
Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn, weeknights at 11:30.